PCI Race Radios, the leader in off-road communications since 1972. Our equipment was developed for racing in Baja, perfected for enjoying the weekend with family and friends. Stay in touch with our track stereo intercoms, two-way radios, satellite communications, helmets and headsets. Find new adventures with GPS. Breathe clean air with Race Air Fresh Air systems. PCI has the highest quality communications, navigation, and safety equipment, backed by the best support in the industry. Find us at hundreds of events each year, supporting our equipment on site and providing the PCI Weatherman Relay. See you in the desert.
Hello everyone, I'm Rhiannon Kalmo with PCI Race Radios, the GPS experts. Thanks for joining us as we go over the Garmin Tread Baja XL GPS unit. If you haven't done so already, visit our website at PCIRaceRadios.com and download our cheat sheet. This is going to cover a lot of the items that we discussed tonight. And if you forget any of the button presses, this is a very helpful document to have in your chase truck. It also has some links on the back that will help you get to some of the links that we're talking about tonight in the video a little bit faster. We're very excited to have Garmin joining us tonight. We have Don Schmidt, the Senior Product Manager for the Garmin Tread XL Baja. He'll be helping to answer any questions that we have. If you guys are joining us live, please post up your questions, comments, ideas into the chat, and we will address those at the end of the class. If you guys are viewing this recorded video later, go ahead and post your comments below, and we will get back to you guys, or you can email us at sales@PCIRaceRadios.com. One of the best ways to get to know your GPS is to actually use it. So we really encourage you guys to get these set up, go outside, grab your team, and all work together to learn how to use these. Set up your team tracking, learn how to text each other, send messages, and locate each other. If you guys are having any problems with these things locating properly or learning how to use them, there's a phone number on the back of that cheat sheet for Garmin Team Tracking Professional Support. This is a white glove service from Garmin, and these guys are on it. If you're having any issues, they will help you get them resolved right away. They're only open from 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, Central Standard Time. So make sure that you guys do this well before your race to help iron out any kinks and learn how to use these. We have found that the biggest challenge that racers find when doing these is actually the setup and the online team tracking portion of this. There are a few important steps to follow as you're setting these up. We'll go over that in our instructional video tonight, but make sure that you guys slow down, read the instructions on the screen, and follow the actual prompts and the steps that you're supposed to take in setting these up. It'll set you guys up for the best success in doing these. We'll switch over to the computer and we'll get right into team tracking. To set up team tracking and satellite text messaging on your Garmin Tread XL Baja cheat sheet, you're going to visit garmin.com/team tracking. Garmin has created 2 really easy guides to help you with this activation. First, the Pro Team Tracking Activation. This will show you where to find your IMEI numbers and go over a lot of the information that we're going to cover today. It's a really helpful tool. It will cover everything and the proper steps to take. So do click on those and follow along if you're having any issues. There's also a Baja Edition Team Tracking, which is a second guide to show you what to do on your device after you have activated the devices, how to send text messages and updates from the devices to other devices on your group. The setup steps are also incredibly important to follow in order. They've made this really easy to follow, but don't fire through and just run right to get started. We do need to pay attention to the order in which these are done to have a successful activation. First is that we have to create a pro account. If you've never had an account with Garmin before, just go ahead and click on Get Started once we're done with this part of it. But if you have had a Garmin account in the past for a Garmin InReach Mini or some other tracking device, you likely have a personal account. So in order to set up your Baja devices, it actually needs to be a pro account. And you have 2 options with that. You could start a new account with a new email address. But what we recommend is converting your old email address and your old account over to a pro account from the personal. You'll see when you log in here with your current personal account, it's going to say that you already have a personal account and you can migrate account. And when you click on that button, it's going to generate an email to Garmin. And this is their white glove team tracking professional support. These guys are super helpful. If you guys are having issues with any of your team tracking, don't be afraid to reach out to them. You can email them, they can give you a call, or they will get this changed over on the back end. You can also call them and they will do this while you're on the phone. Alternatively, if you're pretty computer savvy, we have a link in the bottom of this video and also on the back of our cheat sheet that shows you how to switch your InReach subscription from a personal account to a professional account. This will walk you through all of the mouse clicks in order to convert this over to yourself. It's actually super easy to do. So grab that link down below in this video or on our cheat sheet. Once you have your pro account set up, it's really important that the next step that you take is to create a user for each device. Now, your pro account email address needs to be different from the user email address, and these need to be unique email addresses for each user. Each device will have a user, and they all need to be unique email addresses. These do not have to be valid email addresses. Garmin is only going to email you at your main pro account email addresses for billing and everything. The user email addresses are never actually going to be used. It just helps identify a unique user in the Garmin system. So you can use the actual email addresses from Bob and Tim and everyone who's going to be out using each of these devices. Alternatively, you can just create some imaginary email addresses. You can tell it it's going to be 700 race at Gmail and 700 chase at Gmail and 700 chase 2 at Gmail and 700 pre-runner at Gmail, or maybe Yahoo, so that you have a better chance of it being unique. It does need to be unique to the Garmin system. So have an idea of what you're going to name each of those devices and the unique email address that you're going to give each of those devices. After we create the devices, we're going to create a group for each of those team members for the big team that's going to be tracking each other. And that group is going to put everybody onto the devices. So after we create our users and then we put them all into a group, then we are actually going to activate the individual devices and assign a user to that device. So to log in or create your pro account, click Get Started. You're going to select your country or region. You're going to accept some terms and conditions on credit cards and tax exemptions. And then here you'll be given the option to log into your Garmin account or complete the fields below to create your new pro account if you've never had an account before. You'll enter your account details. You'll enter emergency contacts. You're going to read the information on the SOS response coordination. You're going to read the information, and if desired, select a search and rescue insurance plan. You'll review and confirm your account details, enter your billing information, your payment information next, and then you'll be able to log into your account. Once you have logged in or created your pro account, the first step that we're going to take is to go in to create our users under groups and users. You'll select Add a User. First and last name doesn't matter, but your map display name is what's going to actually show up on the device. So we're going to call this 1X Chase. And this is where you'll need to give it that unique email address. Call this 1xchase@gmail.com. Continue filling in all of your information, noting that it's going to want 2 emergency contacts. After you've created your first user, you're going to set up your second user. The second user device that I'm creating is for an InReach Mini. So this will be 1X Race. I'm going to give it its unique email address again. After you've finished entering all your information for your second user, you'll also hit save. So now we have our 2 users created, and now we need to create a group. So we're going to create a group, and we're going to call this the 1X Race Team. And we're going to add the users, 1X Race and 1X Chase. So now we've got our users created for each device. We've got our group created, and we have both of our users in there. Now we will set up the devices and their associated plans. You'll click on Add Device, and the first device that we're going to add is going to be the Tread XL Baja. Finding the IMEI and the auth code is as easy as clicking on Team Tracking on the device, and it will share that information with you. Then you'll select Team Tracking Plans, and it'll bring up the 3 different options that you have for the Tread XL Baja. There's a Flex Team, a Flex Team Plus, and the Flex Team Max. For $99.95 per month, you get the updates at 2 to 4 minute intervals. For $174.95 a month at 1 to 2 minute intervals, and for $249.99 per month, 30-second to 1 minute intervals. It does make sense to have parity between the race car and the chase vehicle. The exception would be is if you're going to be using MapShare to get more frequent updates from the race vehicle, you might want to have the race vehicle on a faster plan, and then you can get quicker updates on the web. However, if you're just going from chase truck to race truck, you'll want parity between the two, because this is only going to be looking every 2 to 4 minutes, even though this is sending every 30-second to 1 minute. So we're going to select this one. Then on next, keep in mind you have a $34.95 activation fee. You'll agree to the terms and conditions, and now you'll assign one of those users that you created. Since this is the one going into the chase truck, I'm going to select 1X Chase and add the device. Activating the devices can take a few moments. After it says activation successful, we can go to next and then continue on to do the second device. The next device that we're going to add is going to be one of the InReach Mini 2s, this device here. Again, clicking on these will help you see where to find your IMEI number and your auth code. The service plans for the InReach Mini 2 look a little bit different than the Tread XL Baja. You have the Flex, Basic, Advanced, and Unlimited. They have 20, 40, or unlimited satellite messages. And for the $19.95 per month or the $34.95 per month, you get tracking intervals of 10 plus minutes. For the $64.95 per month, you get tracking intervals of every 2 minutes. This also holds a $34.95 activation fee. You'll agree to the same terms and conditions and then come in to select your user. You can see we've already assigned one device to the chase truck. This is the race bike device. So we'll select that and add device. And this also takes a few minutes to activate. After the activation is successful, you can click on next and you'll see both devices have been activated. We have the Tread XL Baja Chase Edition as the chase, and we have the InReach Mini 2 as the race vehicle. While we're in here looking at these devices, I want to talk about suspending and canceling these. Now, we talked about the monthly fees ranging anywhere from $20 to $250 per month. You have an option to either deactivate and fully cancel these devices, or you can change the plan or suspend. Now, the suspense plans that they offer are $5 per month. So if you are going to be putting these into suspense for less than 8 months, and you would like to keep your MapShare data, the suspend at $5 per month probably makes the most sense. Now, if you want to move these to a different account, or if you're going to be deactivating these for more than 8 months, then you'll probably want to go ahead and just cancel. So you can click on the $5 a month here and then continue. It's going to continue your current plan until the 30 days is over, and at that point, it'll start the $5 per month. So the suspense doesn't start immediately. It continues to carry out the rest of the 30 days that you had signed up for. Alternatively, if you want to deactivate the device, you would click here and deactivate the device instead of suspend. Now we're going to talk about MapShare. And if you go into My Info and into social, you have the ability to create a website with a map that's going to display your progress. You can share this with your race team, or you can share this on Facebook. This can be as open as you would like. You can also password protect it in the MapShare settings. You want to make sure that this is enabled and that MapShare is on. You'll see your very own URL here. And if you click on edit, you can even change this to something else. I could probably change this to 1X race. You'll click on the map, and then the users that access this map will be able to see the messages if you so choose. They'll be able to track you. They'll be able to send you text messages, and they'll be able to see the track that you guys have been going for updates. So nice, helpful for the friends and family at home, and can also be helpful to some of your team out in the field if they have Starlink and they want more frequent updates than the device is able to offer. Now we'll switch over to the GPS unit. Hopefully you guys have these in front of you and are able to follow along. If not, come back to visit this video later and actually go through the button presses and get familiar with how to download a GPS file into your device. We always want to start with a clean GPS before starting to pre-run or before a race event. So from the main menu, you're going to select Race Files. If you don't have all already selected, you'll click on that arrow and select all. You go to the three dots, select and edit, and then click on the checkbox boxes here to select all. Then you'll press delete. From here, you can import the GPX file in. Alternatively, if you lose that, you can always go to Race Files, and then from here, end to import. We'll connect our SD card into the GPS unit, and you'll download the GPX file from the race sanctioning body. You can either tap to import now or go into import. You'll select the GPX file that you want to import and press OK. It's going to tell you how many waypoints, how many tracks. You can see all the details there, but we're going to always select all and then click on next. And then here you can create a collection. And the collections are going to come in handy when you're pre-running multiple drivers for one race. You guys have different sections. And this is going to be nice because you can actually delete by collection, save by collection, and merge together your files a little bit easier. So I'm going to make a new collection. We're going to call this 2022 San Felipe 250. We'll click done and we'll import. And it's going to put all of these GPX components into that specific collection there. So now under this collection, you can see the two tracks that we have, and that's what these little feet are. I have one track in red, one track in blue, and then these are all of the waypoints that downloaded in. And you can scroll through these and check these out. Alternatively, you can open up the tracks from here. Now, Garmin has some really neat technology built in that you can actually edit the tracks right from the GPS unit here. So as you zoom in a little bit more into this track detail, there's a couple of things that you can look at here. One is just your layers. Anytime that you see this icon on the screen, you can select what you're going to look at for your background layers. The edit pencil here is going to take you up to a few options. And we're going to zoom in a little bit more so you can see some better detail. And these are all the points per track. And in this track edit tool, you can actually edit the track right from the screen here. So say you had a different line and you wanted to go down this route and around. It would be as easy as selecting this waypoint here, and you could move it. You can select this waypoint here and move it. And then so now maybe you don't need these waypoints. You could click on these waypoints and then delete. We want to delete this one. We want to delete this one. We want to delete this one. And now let's say we wanted this to come up a little bit further down here. You can even add a track, a point. And so we'll add that point, and now we'll move that point over here. So really cool little feature in the Garmin that you can actually edit these tracks. You can click save to save this or to revert back. We're just going to cancel out of here and discard the changes that we've made to that route. In the tools here, you'll find where you can rename the track, where you can set the track color. And you can also set the track width. Now keep in mind this applies to all of the tracks, not just the specific one that you're looking at, but there's normal, wider, and widest. So this will bring it up much more boldly on the screen so that it's a little bit easier to see. You can also select show on top, which if you're recording multiple tracks is nice to have because you can have your pre-run trail show up on top of the sanctioning body course. You can select which collection that this gets saved in. You can duplicate it, and you can also delete it from here. So now that you've loaded in a race course for us to kind of work and check around a little bit, I'd like to explain the difference between the race map and the chase map. When you click on Chase Map, it'll show you the background map. It'll show you all of the information. And basically, the only difference between these two is the waypoint countdown on the top left-hand corner of the screen. I think that that's a handy tool to have, especially when you're pre-running. So I'm going to show you how to start your race map because it's helpful during pre-run day, not just on race day. And then we'll work through adding in waypoints and tracks from there. So you'll click on race. It's going to ask you which track you want to create a race from. And so you can look at your last import, or you can look at collections that actually have a track loaded into them. So I'm going to open up that one we just created. We have the 4-wheel vehicle, or we have the motorcycle and quad one. We're going to make the 4-wheel vehicle active. That doesn't mean that we won't be able to see the motorcycle and quad course. It'll still be visible below us, but our actual race course that we're selecting is the 4-wheel vehicle. And the significance of that is it's going to grab the waypoints within a quarter mile of each side of this race track, and it won't grab the waypoints that are near the motorcycle and quad and count those down. So we'll click on next. It's going to ask how many laps. And if this is a lap race, you're doing multiple laps, I would just throw 99 in here because it's not going to hurt anything in case you have any extras. This is also where you can select your track color. If you have different pre-run notes, that might be helpful to have in a different color. Collections, this is where you will show or hide any of your other collections that you have. We recommend starting with a clean GPS when you start, but say you had multiple collections from different drivers, whether or not you wanted to show those on the background, you can select those. We generally will just select all. And the last option here is distance marker. By selecting this, you'll have a tick mark every quarter of a mile. So it's similar to what we had for range rings previously, but it will help you count down each quarter of a mile if you're trying to look on the course for turns. Now, of course, you'll have your information up here for your waypoint countdowns, but for actually just looking at the track, that quarter mile will help out. You'll press race. I am currently in simulation mode right now because I have my location off. So it's going to simulate what this whole race is going to look like. And so we've started driving. Because I'm in simulation mode, it hasn't updated these. So I'm just going to hit X and open this back up. It's going to recalculate our waypoint countdown now that we're actually moving. And you'll see that our next waypoint is to the start finish in 300 feet. And so we'll see now that it's updating our distance to speed zone 1. We've got 140 feet, 130 feet. It'll start counting this down more frequently as you're getting closer to this. We'll know right as we come up to our 37 mile an hour speed zone. And then it will now count down our next waypoint, which is going to be in half a mile on the race course up here for the end of this speed zone. So right now it's at half a mile. It'll continue counting that down. And you can see that it's kind of simulating the turns that were made here as this was created. So as you're driving along, having these waypoints on the left-hand side is about the only difference between your race map and your chase map. So the next thing that we want to show you how to do is how to add a waypoint. While you're driving along, it's as easy as pressing the waypoint button here. It'll drop a waypoint. And then if you press on the gray area, it'll bring everything up. And so now you have the waypoint name. You can drop some information on here. If you want these to be in all caps, it's as easy as double tapping the shift key. And now you'll have all caps. You can select the map symbol. And if you want to enter this into a collection, this will help if you have multiple drivers. So now let's call this one the Tom pre-run, because Tom is out there pre-running this part of it, and we want all of his notes to go into his own pre-run folder. And the benefit of that is at the end of Tom's pre-run and Ree's pre-run, we will delete everything off of the GPS. We'll load the latest and greatest race file from the sanctioning body. We'll overlay Tom's pre-runs notes, and then we'll overlay Ree's pre-run notes. So now we have a clean GPS file that doesn't have duplicated race miles and tracks and things like that. So that's the benefit of saving these into their own collection. So we'll hit done, and now we have saved that waypoint. Alternatively, if you want to click off the map and click a separate area here, you can drop a waypoint. Now, it knows that it's at Calle Manzanillo, so it's going to name it that. But if we want to put a note here that says cliff on left, we can do that, and we can select any map symbol that we would need there. And we'll also have that there. Now you can see that I've clicked off the screen, so I'm not centered any longer. Simply pressing the back button here or on the dock is going to bring you back to view your present location. And you can see those waypoints that I dropped back below there. There's my cliff on left, and there's my rocks. And again, not viewing our present position, but pressing the back button will take us back to where we are now. We're just about to end our speed zone here, and you can see the map updating and showing those speed zones. So the next thing to talk about is going to be how to record your own track. And most teams are not going to create their own tracks. They're just going to use the sanctioning body provided track. You can record your own track, whether you are in the race mode or the chase map. From the map screen, you're going to press these 3 lines on the bottom here, and then you'll click on track recorder. Pressing start will start recording your own track. Now I've turned off the location so that I can have the simulator, so I don't have this available. Let me turn that on so that you guys can, I won't be moving, so it's not going to do a whole lot of good. So you'll click start, you'll start your track, and that's going to begin your track recorder. Now, when you're done with that, you press stop, and that's going to pause your recording. Resume when you want to continue creating your track, and if you're finished, you'll have the option to save your track at the end of that. We recommend starting and stopping exactly where you want the track to start and stop. If you let it go too long or too short, you can click the edit button on the next screen as you're saving it, and you can revise those track points the same way that we showed you as we were importing in the file. We recommend making your own track a different color than the race series provided track. So I've turned my location back on to show you a little bit more about that track recorder. Again, to this 3 menu bar down here, track recorder and start. Now this has started recording your track, and you'll notice that your distance is going to start updating down here. And this is your trip distance or your trip calculator. Press stop when you're ready to pause, and this will pause the recording of your track. From here, you can resume, and this will begin recording again. From here, you can also save, you can name your track, and then again, this is where you're going to be able to go in and edit the track. So now that you've gone out, you've pre-run your race course, we want to transfer the GPX file back onto the card so we can put it onto another Garmin tread. At the time of this class, you cannot export from Garmin to Lowrance, so this will only go from Garmin to Garmin. From the main menu here, you're going to go to Race Files, and if you kept everything in one collection, so say we're just going to send Tom's collection, you can just select this collection here. You'll click on Share, you'll click on Memory Card, and we'll call this Tom's Pre-Run. Now the data has been saved to the memory card. So again, if you have a clean GPS now, you could upload the latest race course from the sanctioning body, and then Tom's notes, and then Ree's notes on top of that. So pretty easy to save that back to the SD card. Heading back into our race screen, I want to talk about the customizable data on the bottom of the screen here. You have your speed, and that will always be your speed. But if you click on speed, you can see some other information about trip A, trip B. You can see your average speed, the sunset, the moving average, and your stopped time. Now, these blocks are all customizable simply by clicking on them. And you can select that I'd rather make this my elevation. And rather than seeing sunset, I would like to see the time of day. So all of this information here is customizable, and this blue bar becomes accessible by selecting speed. To remove it, you just press the X. These 3 blocks down here are also customizable by simply pressing on them and saying same thing. I would like to know my distance to my destination. I'd like to know how many feet I've traveled. and I'd like to see how far off course I am, you can change all of this information here. To reset information like your max speed, you can press on any of those blocks, then click on the menu at the top here and reset fields. Now you can select all and reset everything, or if you have some high scores that you want to keep like your max speed, you can just select that you want to reset your trip B and click reset on that. Now your distance traveled is totally denoted by your track recorder. So you will press the three dots here, you will go to track recorder, and you will start this track at the beginning of the race. And you'll start and stop that to begin or end your track recorder, which starts out in feet and will move to miles and show you how far you've gone on the race course. I'd like to talk a little bit about the background mapping that you see here. You'll notice that we've got kind of a smaller map screen at the moment, but it's pretty easy to click on the X here or the X here and give you some more map room. Now, if you want that waypoint countdown to come back, you'll just open this up and it'll recalculate and you'll have your waypoint data come back. And same with over here. If you click on this menu, you can come back with your InReach team tracking and it will bring all of that information. So on the InReach team tracking, this will take you to your messages and you can send messages back and forth or see the messages that pop up. And this shows you where everyone on your team is. So we can see that 1X race is 261 miles to the southeast of me, last updated at 4:10 p.m. and he was moving at 23.9 miles per hour. There is more information that you can go into here. It can show you his location. It'll show you the last update and you'll find all that data there. Now, closing out of this screen and seeing our background map, so I'll make this a little bit bigger. Closing out of that guy there. You'll click on the layers, this button here, and this is going to bring up all the different layers that we have. For racing, we definitely recommend turning off bird's eye. Recommend turning off as much stuff as you would like, actually. The less data that you have, not your collections, leave those guys alone, but the less data that you have on the back of the screen, the faster that your map will update and refresh in some of these turns. It is a noticeable difference when the bird's eye mapping is on. Bird's eye mapping is really nice when you're using it for pre-run, recreation, or for the chase truck. Bird's eye is downloaded already for the northern half of Baja. I will zoom out here and show you a little bit more. You'll see the line right here, and that's where the separation of where it is preloaded and where it is not stops. Now, the internal GPS only carries so much, and that's why it's only done Northern Baja. So if you're racing the Baja 1000, it might make sense to download more of this. Do this before you leave home. It's really easy to download this mapping, but it does take a good amount of internet. So we'll go back. You'll go into apps, you'll go into race, you'll click on Bird's Eye Direct, and then you'll click on the download button here. So we'll zoom down to the bottom of Baja, and we're going to change our size to be, say, 50 miles so that we get a bigger block. And we'll come back down here to Baja, and you'll click on the area that you're looking to download. And so now you can see the box that it's downloaded. We're going to click a little bit lower to move that down. And now you have the option of how much detail, standard, high, or highest. It's going to tell you how many megabytes or gigabytes it's going to download, and then where you're going to save to, the internal storage or the micro SD card, and how much room you have available in both places. So I'm going to put this to standard so it downloads a little bit quicker, and I'm going to drop this down to just 10 miles to give you an idea of what this looks like and make this a little bit smaller. So you'll click on download, call this South Baja 1, done, and it's starting to download that now. And once that's downloaded, you can go back to your map and you'll see that you now have that second little block down there that's been downloaded. So you'll want to do that multiple times and kind of follow along the corridor or the race course or the highway. Alternatively, Basecamp is another good option to download this into. Now, if you did select to download that onto the SD card, the map lives on the SD card. You put the SD card into the GPS, the map shows up. Take the GPS card out, the map goes away. And it only works with the device that downloaded it. You cannot transfer this over to a different GPS. All right, one last thing I want to show you before we start going into some of the questions today is if you go into apps, tools, settings, down to map display and waypoint size, waypoint labels, there's an option to have your text small, normal, and large. And this is a really cool feature of the Garmin GPS. So those of you who've been asking for larger text size, that's where you'll find it, and you'll want to set that to large there. We have a few questions that were sent in ahead of the GPS class. Thank you guys for sending that over. We'll start going through those, and then we'll start combing through the chat to add on additional questions as well. So a couple of the questions that we had emailed in ahead of time. The first one is, within team tracking tools, you have several options. Can you explain the difference between checking the boxes for tracking, sync, and auto track? So we're going to go into team tracking and into the setting tools here. And you have the option to show tracks on map, and this will share your breadcrumb trail in between your other devices. Next, you have tracking sync, and what this is going to do is forces the on-device track recorder and team tracking features to turn on and off together. It just syncs those up so that if you turn on one, on the other, it turns off, and then it turns them off simultaneously. So you can turn that one on if desired. And then lastly, the auto track will make it so when you turn the device on, it automatically starts team tracking. Now, I would definitely turn this one on because it's not impossible that this would be stopped and that the team forgets to actually turn on the tracking, because you actually do need to press play to turn on the tracking in here. So that one is a good feature into the auto track. So thank you for that question, Mark. Another question that Mark had was, we have a race and chase unit, and each unit can see its own track when recording, but not the route of each other. Is there a setting for this? So there isn't a way to share waypoints, tracks, or routes over the team tracking. The course files do need to be uploaded on both the devices independently. However, if you do go in and you turn on that auto track, you will be able to see the breadcrumb from one device to the other. Another question we had was about power. With the race unit mounted in the charging cradle or connected to any of the Garmin power cables, do you recommend disabling the timeout, or when in the race, does it automatically lock the screen? So when the device has power through one of the Garmin power cables, and that is important, if you guys just grab like a different cable, it might not, like some of the data cables don't have the same amount of power and it might not keep the screen going. So use a true Garmin cable, and you will not need to change anything. It will never time out, only if it loses power, such as when it's removed from the dock. Another question we had was how to drop a pin to someone who isn't in the group. And this is something that we've made Garmin aware of, and we are looking for better ways to actually send the coordinates. But you're going to have to type out the coordinates into a message over InReach. Now, keep in mind the user's current position is shared with everyone on the InReach message, so you'll be able to see where they are. And alternatively, if you are looking at them on the map here, you'll be able to see their location with more detail, like their latitude, longitude. But if you are trying to send from the map and trying to send your location, the closest thing that you kind of would have right now would be dropping a waypoint, pulling up that waypoint, finding your coordinates here, and then sending those. And there isn't currently a way to copy and paste this, so you will have to write that down and then type that out when you're sending that InReach message to somebody else. Can you text people outside of the InReach group? Absolutely. And we'll start actually with one of who asked that question? Reyes, you asked about when in race mode, how you can send a direct message to your pit without having to exit the race map. So when you're in here in the race map, on the bottom right-hand corner, you can click on this little menu and go to InReach team tracking, and it will bring this up here. you can see where everyone's at, or you can go to your messages. So if you press this, you can reply. You can send preloaded messages. So you can edit these as well in here and change the order in which they show up on the screen. So feel free to put in your own preloaded messages. And then you can select these, or alternatively, you can type out a reply to send back. Maybe a little bit hard to do while you're driving. So that's where those preloaded ones come in a little bit better. But that will allow you to not really leave this race map. Now, if you're looking to actually send a text message to someone outside of your group, you will have to go out and go into team tracking, and then from here, you can compose a message. Now you have pre-selected contacts in here. You can update Facebook, you can update Map Share, Twitter if you've connected it, your entire team. This will update your whole team. And if you want something outside of these pre-selected contacts, you'll go to the menu up here, and then you can go to your inReach contacts or type a recipient. So a recipient could look like a cell phone number, and you would just type that in starting with the one. And after typing that out, then you could click on done and type out your message. So this could be a typed out text message. You can also go to your quick texts from here as well. Send that message, and that will send on to that text message. You can send that, you can save the contact from there. You can do that to an email address. Someone had asked about sending to a computer. The best way to do that would be to MapShare. And into MapShare, if you are looking there for updates, if you're looking at that link that you were given earlier, you can look in here and see let me update that link really quick. You will be able to see the messages coming through from them. Um, Alternatively, if you wanted to email somebody, it would be the same way. If you typed out that recipient, you could send someone an actual email and send off that text message that way. Um, Next message, we covered Reyes texting people outside of the group. What intervals did the inReach minis update at? We covered that when we went through either the 10-minute plans or the 2-minute plans. But one thing to keep in mind is if the person hasn't moved in a while, that it stops updating. So the data may be old, but they are likely in the same position. So if you notice that the information is a little bit dated on an inReach mini, or like if they're using that for one of your chase trucks, if the data is not updating, they could just be sitting there. How to move your device to another GPS account. We talked about that really briefly when going through the setting up the devices. But if you are looking to actually take this off and move it to another GPS account or another user's account, which is common because you guys sometimes chase from multiple teams, we've also made Garmin aware that this is a very common occurrence. But the current way to make that work is to go into your devices, you deactivate the device, and then you call Garmin, this team tracking pro support, and let them know, I need you to remove that device from my account. I'm going to send it over to someone else's account. They're going to have to do that on the back end. Alternatively, you can email them, but the calls are great. These guys are super helpful. I have to give a shout out to Sean today because he saved my butt when I messed some things up when preparing for tonight's class. So the support from those guys really is white glove. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. You get a very helpful person on the phone right away. Does the charger keep up with battery consumption? We already covered that question. And then, Chris, you wanted to see what it looks like when editing a trail to save the edits. So let's go back into editing a trail. We're going to stop the race here. We're going to go into race files. Let's go into our last import. Oh, wrong button. And we're going to open up one of these tracks here. We're going to click on edit. Zoom in a bit more so you can see what it looks like when we're doing that. And while I'm here too, Nick, I'll kind of show you, you can see how it's dropping more track points as you are slower in some of these turns with your course change, but I can kind of see what you mean about how these aren't like perfectly round. And Don may be able to comment on that a little bit more, but I'll go out and test this and see if we go lower than 15, 20 miles an hour, if we slow down to like 5 miles an hour for um, like a pre-run section, if it does drop way more points, and I'll show you what that looks like versus 5 miles an hour and 20 miles an hour. I think Fish has your information, but if not, if you can just shoot me an email at garminclass@pciraceradios.com, and I will send that back to you and let you know what that looks like. But into the track editing and how to save that. So let's just say we're going to delete these extra points here. We really didn't need those. So what I did was exit it out, but alternatively, we'll click on save, and then you get the option to override your current track, which will save, or you can save it as a new track, and now you'll have the second track, and you can then overlay them on top of each other if that makes most sense for you. So just wanted to show Chris that that could be done. And we talked about Nick already. Don, we talked about people being able to use their device with different groups. A lot of people looking into that. Is there anything in the works that you know about deactivating these and being able to add other racers to the group? Is this something on the roadmap, or just something we got to keep talking about for a while?
Yeah. Hey, Rand. Yeah, unfortunately, the back end that we use for managing these teams, we don't have the links in place to be able to manage across accounts right now. So that back end infrastructure just doesn't support that kind of use case right now. So I don't have a timeline for anything like that, but it is on our radar, and I'm actively talking with the teams on our side to see what we can do. I just don't know when.
Understand. Well, we appreciate you looking into that. And for everyone listening, Garmin has been, I mean, just to be on this call tonight really shows how much they care about this space and what they're doing for the off-road community. So they're taking this information, they're taking this feedback, and they've made a ton of changes already. So I haven't mentioned it yet, but make sure that you guys are doing the software updates frequently. From the home screen here, you can just kind of swipe down from the very top, and this will go into showing you updates. If there's an update available, there's even another one available, and I just did this a few weeks ago. They're updating things all the time. We just got more icons put in here, so I definitely recommend before you guys head out to the race, do these updates, see the changes that they're making and the feedback that they're taking. If you guys have more suggestions as we're going, please send those over to us. We'll be happy to pass those along to Garmin. There's been talk of like a split screen and range rings. That's also feedback that we've passed over to Don. Anything on that, Don, or just kind of also on the books?
It's on the books, yeah. So as you mentioned, we have gotten a couple software updates out. We're trying to prioritize the right things in order just to get the most critical things out first. So we had a big update there before San Felipe for a few items that definitely helped improve things. We're paying attention to the forums, and then obviously these classes like this and the support calls we receive, and kind of prioritizing that next list. The next update I would expect sometime midsummer would probably be my best guess if I had to throw something down. I'm not sure what would be in there, but it would be whatever is most talked about. So yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get loud about range rings. I think that's been the two biggest things I've
Definitely.
been hearing are the range rings and the being able to move devices around. And I understand that there's a whole infrastructure around that, but
Yeah.
appreciate that you guys are definitely looking into it, and that there's a way to do it. In the meantime, it's not super easy, but like I said, it's a few phone calls, or it's a phone call or an email away, and then and an activation fee as well. Unfortunately, the suspense won't work for that. You actually have to deactivate those and reactivate those once you get them all into one group, but it is possible right now. Another question we had was for multi-lap races, like a King of the Hammers. Is there a way to hide certain laps without creating separate collections? So certain laps. So what we're talking about is multiple tracks in there, correct? And Fish,
You
you
asked
can't
me
talk
that
to me.
one.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Fish posted this question for me. Let me see what he updates here if he has
Okay.
some more information. But what I'm assuming that they're asking about here is for King of the Hammers.
Yep.
I don't even know if that's a good example. That was
King of the Hammers was a rough one this year.
and not on Garmin's end. I mean, it was a rough one with whatever GPS you were using. So
Yeah.
eh, there was some technical challenges with what was going on with the race courses that we got from the sanctioning body with those. We will definitely try to work harder with the sanctioning body to make sure that those make more sense going forward. But we will, as we get closer to next year and as we work with them hopefully a little bit more, we'll make those make a little bit more sense. But yeah, you can definitely hide a collection or you can hide a track. So if each loop was a different track, you could make those different colors. Is so like for the motorcycle course, that's what David did. Is he had loop 1, loop 2, and then the different races, and so he would make those different colors and know that he's following the pink trail or the blue trail or the green trail.
Yeah, and I think just to try and clear it up in everyone's minds for how that lapped feature works on our devices. So when you go through that race setup flow, Rhiannon, that you showed, and then you kind of have a course established, and when you do that, you're creating individual tracks to build out a bigger course. And if the race organizations hopefully in the future start to organize those files to where it's like, all right, this track is lap 1, this track is lap 2, this track is lap 3, and those laps are different track lines, then you can just put those in sequence and call it all one lap. The lap feature for us is strictly for when the start ends on the finish, right? The start and the finish are in the same location and they want to run like the Mint 400. You want to run it a few different times. And when you come back to finish, you don't want it to stop giving you guidance on the upcoming waypoints. You want it to restart that and go into the next lap. And so that's where, when you're looking at that number of laps feature, that's really just designed for looped races. When the laps are different each time, then I would not use the laps feature. I don't know if that clarified it, but I tried my best.
Yeah, definitely. And then Stephen, I see that you asked about making some custom waypoint icons. I don't believe so, but Dawn, you could tell me a little bit better. There's no functionality to import in your own custom picture icons, correct? We have to use one of the predefined ones.
That's right. Yeah, we have a pretty good set on the device, but yeah, we don't support custom ones.
Yeah, I think the only one that was really missing from the Lowrance icon set was the caution sign, and we've sent that feedback on to Garmin as well, but there's quite a few of them in here now. All right. Well, any more questions I see in the chat? I think we've answered just about everything. If you guys come up with any more questions, like I said, please send them over to us at sales@pciraceradios.com. If you guys are viewing this GPS class later, because this will be uploaded, same thing, put them down below in the comments. Feel free to shoot us an email. Again, a big thank you to Dawn and Garmin for joining us to go over this information, and to Garmin for how much they care about this industry and all the cool changes that we're making to these items. So hope you guys had a good time tonight and you learned something new. Feel free to reach out if you have something else. And thank you for your support of PCI Race Radios, the GPS experts. We'll see you guys at the races.
PCI Race Radios, the leader in off-road communications since 1972. Our equipment was developed for racing in Baja, perfected for enjoying the weekend with family and friends. Stay in touch with our track stereo intercoms, two-way radios, satellite communications, helmets and headsets. Find new adventures with GPS. Breathe clean air with Race Air Fresh Air Systems. PCI has the highest quality communications, navigation, and safety equipment, backed by the best support in the industry. Find us at hundreds of events each year, supporting our equipment on site and providing the PCI Weatherman Relay. See you in the desert.